Hi everyone, Misilla here, Learn to Grow. I hope that you guys are having a good day. So I've been working on this video earlier this year, but I just didn't get around to publishing it. So today we're going to go over 10 plants or crops that produce secondary or multiple crops. And I hope that you guys find this video helpful, and maybe this is something that you can utilize next year since it's pretty late in the season. Now, if you planted any of these crops in the last 4 to 6 weeks, you may still get secondary crops that you can harvest. A secondary crop is a regrowth from the same plant. Just like with this lettuce, when we do the cut and come again method, we can get a second harvest. It can also be another growth or multiple crops such as the edible flowers, leaves, and tuberous roots of the scarlet runner bean. The first plant is Arugula, and this one actually has 3 crops that you can harvest. You can harvest the leaves as early as 30 days after seeding. And as the plant matures, you can harvest the tasty, sweet, and spicy flowers. And the third one are the immature seed pods. They are crunchy, tasty, and resembles the arugula leaves. The second one is cilantro, and the whole plant is edible from the roots, stems, leaves, and flowers. And if you let your plants go to seed, you can harvest the seeds known as coriander and use it as spice. The third crop will include a few, and that's going to include kale, collard greens, mustard greens, bok choy, broccoli. These leafy greens produce edible stems, leaves, flowers, and seed pods, and you can actually also eat the stems of broccoli and cauliflower. The fourth one is garlic, and you can harvest 3 crops from this plant. You can harvest the leafy greens early in the season, preferably about a month before the bulb formation, which is about 6 to 8 weeks before you harvest your garlic bulbs. The second crop is the garlic scape. This is actually a flower stalk of the hardneck garlic variety and also elephant garlic. These are edible, and you can harvest them right when they begin to curl or even before that, and they are pretty yummy. They taste like mild green beans. That's what it reminds me of. And the third crop that we'll wait a few months for, typically about 7 to 9 months, are the bulbs. So remember to plant your garlic cloves in the fall, a few weeks before your first frost. The fifth one are peas. You can harvest, of course, the pea pods as well as the flowers if you like, the pea shoots, as well as the tendrils. And remember, if you let your peas mature, you can harvest the seeds to freeze or dry to use later. Number 6, carrots, with its secondary crop of the leafy tops or carrot tops, which are actually nutrient dense and contains more vitamin C than the root crop itself. The leafy greens are delicious and tasty, and of course has a reminiscence of carrots. Number 7, radish. You can harvest the roots as well as the young leafy greens. You can also harvest the delicious flowers as well as the young seed pods. Number 8, sweet potatoes. If you're already growing this for the root crop, the leaves are also edible, and they can be prepared like any other greens. Now just make sure to always do your research. Some tubers that are similar to sweet potatoes, such as wild yams, can be mistaken, and those do not have edible leaves. The scientific name for sweet potato is Ipomoea batatas, which is not the same as the conventional potatoes that we grow. Those ones are not edible, and the leaves will most likely contain high amounts of a poisonous alkaloid called solanine. Number 9, I'll be grouping together bulbing onions and shallots. Early in the season, you can harvest the leafy greens, which you can use just like you would bunching onions. And when the plant matures, you'll be harvesting the onion bulbs. Here are some store-bought shallots that I planted back in April. I actually ended up harvesting a few flower stalks, and those were pretty delicious, and also harvested a few of the leafy greens early in the season. And it looks like they are about to divide into separate cloves now, so I'm excited to harvest this. This one is Egyptian walking onion, and I'll be grouping this together with the onions and the shallots. So this crop will provide you with some leafy greens to harvest, these bulblets or bulbils, which resemble small onions, as well as the small bulbs in the ground. Just make sure to keep an eye on this plant because it will self-seed, and also they multiply. So if you plan on growing walking onions, keep it contained in a pot or in its own garden box, just like that one behind it. Number 10, squash, and this will include both summer and winter squash plants. This is zucchini. Your secondary crop on your squash plants are the male flowers, which emerges about a week before the female flower does. And your plant will usually produce more male flowers than the female flowers. And the flowers can be eaten raw in salads or just as they are, or cooked in stir fry and or added to soups. I almost forgot about beets, so this makes number 11. And you can eat the nutritious leafy tops as well as, of course, the root crops. These were sown about 7 weeks ago in between these pepper plants and eggplants in the shade. So that way they were able to grow in the warm summer months, and they are protected here in between the two other crops. So this is actually called interplanting or intercropping. So when you're intercropping, you are utilizing all the space that you have so it's not wasted. Just make sure that you are planting crops that don't fight for nutrients and water, or that they are not rooted at the same level. And these are far away enough from each other, so they're fine. They're about a foot apart from the pepper plants and the eggplants. Well, I hope that you guys found this video helpful, and thank you so much for joining me today. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your family and friends, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm going to go ahead and munch on these squash flowers. Some people, I guess they deep fry them, but they're pretty good when they're fresh, or you can toss them in your stir fry or soups. Thanks again for joining me today, everyone, and happy gardening.